Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe. Today it's another Dragon-Highlord video, this time one about Feal of the White Dragon armies. Easily one of the less utilized High Lords, much like Lucian. Feal was to maintain a tight grip on the southern reaches of Ansalon for the early part of the War of the Lance. An elf from Silvanesti, an evil version in some ways of Drizzt, in that he's dark-skinned for his race, and has white hair. That's where the similarity ends, as Feal is rather insane and was banished from his people not for being too good, but rather for being pretty psychotic. In order to understand why he was exiled, he ended up murdering his lover at the age of 18 in a fit of madness, exiled to Icereach in the hopes that he might perish a slow and horrible death. He was, however, taken in by the local humans. While there, he took up a human lover, one by the name of Winternorn, who taught him rare magics at his behest. Suspicious of humans, especially those he lived with, Feal was to, whilst living amongst them, study magic, take the test, and become a black robe. A short time before the cataclysm, he was to be tasked with taking a dragon orb and keeping it hidden. And so he fled from Wayreth with the said dragon orb to the realm of Icereach. It was there that he made an alliance with the ogres of Deltagoth, and he was to betray the ice folk who had once taken him in, so that he caused the death of his former lover and her people, and took up their lands as his own. So overall, he was not an okay guy. In these lands, he would construct the Ice Palace, and remain in the Arctic realm for several centuries until he learned of the dragon armies and presented himself to Ariakas. Ariakas didn't much like male elves. Now, he had a soft spot for female ones, but male ones, not so much. So he gave a test to Feal, who was sent to the lands of Silvanesti, where he gathered information about Lorac's dragon orb, and this information was to prove crucial in the early parts of the war during the Silvanesti conflict, and it earned for Feal the rank of High Lord of the White Dragon armies, with Feal earning the trust of a great many of the White Dragons. In the centuries that had passed, though, he had kind of become obsessed with the dragon orb. Kitiara was to tell him that Ariakas wished the dragon orb to fall into the hands of Derek Crownguard in order to bring about the downfall of the Salamnics. The elf, however, had no wish to cooperate with this idea and basically wanted to be left alone, as he had gotten all that he wanted out of the dragon armies, as the only reason he joined the army was to destroy Silvanesti, which he had pretty much done, so didn't much have any other further use for the dragon armies. He was, however, slain by Lorana Kanan, who slit his throat with an ice reaver. Ice dragons, for their part, are remarkable for breathing frost breath, which makes them pretty powerful and dangerous, and pretty interesting and cool, so that they likely have a very icy nature and are cold and calculating, believing in the philosophy of revenge is a dish best served cold. So if you enjoyed this video, my presentation of Feal history, seeing as how this video would be really short with only Feal, I figure I may as well add in Rugoheras, the High Lord of the Red armies, because the Red Dragon army under Rugoheras doesn't get much attention. He's really just the right-hand man to Ariakas in terms of the Red Dragons. So, without further ado, let's also continue with him. Following the defeat of the dragon armies at Naraka, Rugoheras only becomes relevant after the death of Ariakas, with the dragon armies tearing themselves apart in the aftermath of his death. Notably, after they fragmented, Rugoheras proved himself fairly charismatic and powerful. He was a remarkable man in that he was able to make sure that the Red Dragon army did not fall apart. He would reestablish his base of operations of sorts along the northern coast of Estwild, essentially reconquering and beginning to rebuild. He also began plotting a way in which to try and bring Takhisis back into Krynn. These are major accomplishments, and he brought together a group of faithfuls to Takhisis, notably some black robes, clerics, and even a red dragon called Ashbringer to his side. So he came very close to being very successful at this. However, several several adventurers intruded into his territory and brought about his end. This is obviously a reference to this being a D&D quest here. So if ever you want to do a D&D adventure, I would say that Rugoheras, there's more opportunities than with Fealthas in terms of role playing. Don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Sky tearing his way through the High Clerist's Tower in Sturm.